First of all, the very notion of globalization is under assault in the world, but probably nowhere more than in the United States, at least under the last 4 years of the Trump administration. The idea that trade is good is no longer something that many politicians in the United States are willing to acknowledge. The idea that trade actually creates prosperity for all of those who participate in it is now considered a controversial point of view. And the idea that globalization is good for America, good for China, and good for the world is something that is now under challenge. By the same token, and on a very closely related note, the very construct of comparative advantage, the idea that countries ought to do what they do best, and that when each country in the global economy produces what it produces most efficiently, that the global pie economically will get larger and all will prosper. That notion is under assault in this country, and it's under assault in other countries as well. And that is to see that type of sound and well-established economic theory being challenged in the way that it has been in recent years is something that is alarming. At the same time, looking at the issue of governance in the United States, a trend that we see is a trend away from limited government. Under the Trump administration, the United States government, the federal government, has inserted itself into board level and corporate C-suite level decisions in a way that we have rarely seen in modern American history, with the federal government now seeking to make decisions for companies that used to be considered decisions that companies themselves should make in ways in which the corporate leadership was responsible to corporate shareholders. And we're moving away from that, or at least we have moved away from that over the last several years. That too is a source of concern, and I think we see that playing out in other countries as well. And finally, and perhaps most fundamentally, we now see a climate in the United States in which a significant swath of the US elected leadership and many Americans reject science. They reject science with respect to climate change. They reject science with respect to COVID-19 and a host of other areas. And it is a very alarming trend. I don't think the United States is necessarily unique in this area, but the United States has been a very prominent case of a country in which a significant swath of the leadership and people are rejecting very fundamental principles of science that are well established in other countries. And on a related note, and perhaps even more fundamentally, we have really moved away now from a fact-based type of discourse in the United States when it comes to public policy discourse. And this is something that I think has caused serious harm to the United States, and something that I've noted in previous speeches, and I'll say again here what I've said before, and that is that the untethering of US public policy discourse from factual reality is the gravest threat that the United States faces in terms of either our security or our prosperity. And we need to move in the opposite direction as we go forward if we are to have any chance of solving the public policy problems that are in front of us.